was sitting in my wheelchair at the altar, watching my groom walk away from me in front of everyone. My legs were useless, my heart was broken, and I thought my life was over. Then a man I barely knew did something that changed everything. This is my story. Before we start, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this story will remind you that real love shows up when you least expect it. Now let me take you back to the worst and best day of my life. My name is Ayana, and I grew up in a small village in rural Nigeria where everyone knew everyone's business. The kind of place where your neighbor's celebration becomes your celebration, and your shame becomes the talk of every evening gathering. I was 26 years old when this happened, and up until that point, I thought I had my whole life figured out. I was engaged to Chisholm, my childhood sweetheart, the boy who used to chase me around the village square when we were kids. He'd grown into a successful trader in the city, and our wedding was supposed to be the biggest celebration our village had seen in years. We had everything planned. The white lace dress that took 3 seamstresses 2 months to make, the matching traditional attire in deep purple and gold, the menu that would feed 300 people. My mother was so proud. My father had saved for years to give me the wedding I deserved. Chisholm would come home every weekend from the city with his pockets full and his promises even fuller. He'd hold my hand under the mango tree behind my family's compound and tell me about the life we'd build together. 3 children, he said, a big house, maybe even relocating to Lagos someday. 3 weeks before the wedding, my mother and I took a bus to the city to buy the final fabrics we needed. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and the sky was heavy with rain clouds. I remember laughing with my mother about how nervous I was, how I kept imagining myself tripping while walking down the aisle. She squeezed my hand and told me I would be the most beautiful bride anyone had ever seen. Those were the last words I heard before the sound of screeching tires and breaking glass filled my ears. The bus driver had been going too fast on the wet road. We crashed into a truck carrying cement bags. I don't remember the impact itself, just waking up 3 days later in a hospital bed with machines beeping around me and my mother's tear-stained face hovering above mine. I tried to sit up, but my body wouldn't respond the way I expected. I tried to move my legs, but there was nothing. No pain, no sensation, nothing. It was like they didn't belong to me anymore. The doctor was a tired-looking man with kind eyes. He sat beside my bed and explained what the X-rays and scans had shown. My spine had been damaged in the crash. The injury was permanent. I would never walk again. Those words echoed in my head for days, weeks, months afterward. Never walk again. Never dance at my own wedding. Never run after my future children. Never stand beside my husband as an equal. Chisholm came to the hospital every single day that first week. He'd sit beside my bed holding my hand, telling me that nothing had changed, that he still loved me, that we'd figure it out together. But I could see something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Fear, doubt, maybe even regret. His mother came once, looked at me lying in that hospital bed, and I saw her mouth tighten into a thin line. She didn't say anything that day, but I knew. A mother always knows what her son is thinking, and I could see her thoughts written all over her face. The second week, Chisholm's visits got shorter. He'd come in the evening instead of the morning. He'd check his phone more. His hand would slip out of mine when the nurses came in, like he didn't want them to see us together. By the 3rd week, he was only calling, and those calls became arguments. His mother had started talking to him, whispering poison into his ear about how a man needs a complete woman, about how the village would mock him, about how his children needed a mother who could run after them and work in the fields and carry water on her head like a proper wife. When he finally suggested we postpone the wedding indefinitely, I begged. I actually begged him. Sitting in that wheelchair in my parents' compound, I held his hands and cried and told him I was still the same woman he'd fallen in love with. My legs didn't work anymore, but my heart did. My mind did. I could still love him, still be a wife to him, still give him children. The doctors had said it was possible. Please, I said, please don't leave me. He looked away, unable to meet my eyes, but he agreed. We'd go ahead with the wedding. Looking back now, I realize he only said yes because he was too much of a coward to break it off properly. It would have been kinder if he'd just walked away then, but he didn't. He let me hold on to hope for 6 more months while he slowly pulled away, piece by piece, until there was nothing left between us but obligation and pity. The wedding day finally came. My mother woke me up before dawn, and I could hear her crying softly as she helped me bathe and dress. The other village women had decorated my wheelchair with white fabric and small purple flowers to match my dress. They'd done their best to make it beautiful, but we all knew what it really was, a reminder, a symbol of everything I'd lost. When I rolled into that church, I could feel every eye on me. The whispers started immediately. Poor thing. Such a shame. Will he really go through with it? I held my head high and tried to smile, but inside, I was dying. The church was packed with everyone from our village and the neighboring ones too. They'd come to witness what was either going to be a beautiful love story or a spectacular disaster. The decorations were stunning, colorful African prints draped from the ceiling, flowers everywhere. The traditional drummers waited outside, ready to celebrate. But when Chisholm walked in with his groomsmen, my heart sank. He wouldn't look at me. His face was covered in sweat, and not from the heat. His hands were shaking. He looked like a man walking to his own execution. The pastor began the ceremony, and I could barely hear his words over the pounding of my own heartbeat. I kept stealing glances at Chisholm, waiting for him to look at me, to give me some sign that everything would be okay. But he stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched tight. When the pastor reached the part about speaking now or forever holding your peace, I actually relaxed a little. We'd made it past the worst part, just a few more minutes, and I'd be his wife. We could start healing. We could build our life together. That's when his mother stood up. I'll never forget the sound her wooden bench made as it scraped against the concrete floor. The entire church went silent. She was a large woman, imposing, with a voice that carried. And she used that voice to destroy me in front of everyone I'd ever known. She said her son could not marry a crippled woman. She said their family bloodline needed to be strong, that they needed grandchildren who could work the land and carry on the family name. She said it would be a curse to bind her son to someone who could not fulfill a wife's duties. Every word was a knife. But the real pain came when I turned to Chisholm, waiting for him to defend me, to tell his mother she was wrong, to choose me. He just stood there, frozen, silent. His lips moved like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. I heard myself begging, my voice breaking. Please, Chisholm, please say something. Tell them you love me. Tell them I'm still worthy. Instead, he reached up with trembling hands and removed his wedding cap, the traditional cap that marked him as a groom. The church gasped collectively. I'm sorry, he whispered, but in that silent room, everyone heard it. I cannot do this. And then he turned and walked away. He actually walked away from me, down that aisle, past all those staring faces, and out the door. The sound that came out of me wasn't human. It was something primal, something broken. I doubled over in my wheelchair, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. My mother ran to me from her seat, wrapping her arms around me, crying with me. The church erupted into chaos. People were shouting, some at Chisholm's family, some just in shock. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. I had never felt so small, so worthless, so completely broken. That's when I heard footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps coming down the aisle. Through my tears, I looked up and saw Adebayo walking toward the altar. Adebayo was a carpenter from our village, a quiet man who kept mostly to himself. He was 32 years old and had lost his wife 2 years earlier when she died, giving birth to their daughter. I knew him the way you know everyone in a small village. He'd always been respectful, always nodded hello when we passed each other. Once, when my father was sick, Adebayo had brought firewood to our compound without being asked and refused to take payment. But I'd never really looked at him. Not the way I was looking at him now as he walked steadily toward me, while everyone else in that church sat frozen in shock. He was tall and solid, with kind eyes and hands that were rough from honest work. His daughter, little Folami, peeked out from behind a church bench, watching her father with wide, curious eyes. Adebayo walked right up to the altar, and then, in front of everyone, he knelt down beside my wheelchair. His voice was steady and clear when he spoke. "Sister Ayana, I know this is not the way anyone imagines this moment, but if you will have me, I would be honored to be your husband." The church went completely silent. I could hear my own heartbeat. I could hear someone's baby cooing in the back. I could hear everything and nothing all at once. He continued, and his words broke through every wall I'd built around my shattered heart. "Your legs do not work, but your heart does. Your spirit is strong. I have watched you these past months, and I have seen your courage. I have seen your grace. My daughter needs a mother. I need a wife, and you deserve a man who sees your worth." I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. Tears were streaming down my face, but they weren't the same tears from moments before. These were different, confused, shocked, maybe even hopeful. My mother knelt down beside both of us, her hand on my shoulder. "My daughter," she said softly, "look at me. This man has a good heart." I turned to look at Adebayo properly, really look at him for the first time. His face was honest, open. There was no pity there, no doubt. Just a steady certainty that made something crack open inside my chest. I thought about all the times Chisholm had promised to love me and then slowly backed away when things got hard. I thought about Adebayo bringing firewood to my family and asking for nothing in return. I thought about his little daughter Folami, who'd lost her mother and needed someone to love her. I thought about how this man was offering me something Chisholm never had. A choice, dignity, real love. Through my tears, barely able to get the word out, I whispered yes. The pastor was crying. My mother was crying. Half the church was crying. The pastor asked us both if we were certain, if we understood what we were doing. We both said yes. And right there, in front of everyone who just witnessed my humiliation, the ceremony continued. Adebayo took my hand so gently, like I was something precious, and slid the ring onto my finger. It wasn't the ring Chisholm had bought. It was simpler, more humble. But it was real. When the pastor said he could kiss his bride, Adebayo leaned down and kissed my forehead with such tenderness that I felt something I thought I'd never feel again. Hope. The church erupted. The drummers outside, who'd been waiting in confusion, started playing. People were shouting and praising and crying. Some were still in shock, but most were celebrating this impossible, beautiful thing that had just happened. Adebayo asked if he could push my wheelchair, and I nodded. Together, we went down that aisle. His daughter Folami ran up and grabbed my hand, and we left that church as a family. That was 3 years ago. I'm sitting here now in the home that Adebayo built for us, a home with ramps and wide doorways and everything I need to move freely. I help him run his carpentry business, managing the orders and the accounts. Folami is 8 now, and she calls me Mama. We braid each other's hair and tell each other stories, and she sleeps curled up next to me most nights. And I'm 6 months pregnant with our son. The doctors said it was possible despite my paralysis, and Adebayo held my hand through every appointment, every fear, every moment of doubt. Chisholm tried to come back 5 months after the wedding. He showed up at our compound with flowers and apologies, saying he'd made a mistake, that he still loved me. I looked at him from my wheelchair, with Folami playing at my feet and Adebayo's hand on my shoulder, and I felt nothing but pity for him. I told him I was exactly where I was supposed to be. He left and I never saw him again. Sometimes I wonder if he ever understood what he'd lost that day. Not my legs. Not my ability to walk, but the chance to love someone through their hardest moment, the chance to be the kind of man who shows up instead of running away. I learned something important through all of this. Sometimes the person you planned your entire life with is not the person meant for your life. Sometimes God closes a door so violently, so publicly, so painfully, that you have no choice but to see the better entrance He's been preparing all along. Real love doesn't run when things get hard. Real love doesn't need you to be perfect or whole or easy. Real love shows up, kneels down, and says, "I choose you anyway." Not despite your brokenness, but with it, through it, because of the strength it reveals. My legs still don't work. I still use my wheelchair every day. But my life is fuller and richer than I ever imagined it could be back when I was planning that first wedding with Chisholm. I have a husband who sees me, really sees me. I have a daughter who loves me. I have a son on the way. I have purpose and joy and a love that doesn't quit when things get difficult. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Drop a comment and tell me what you think about Adebayo's courage. Was it crazy or was it beautiful? Subscribe for more true stories that prove love and miracles still exist. And remember, when one door closes, God is preparing a better entrance. Your worth is not determined by what your body can or cannot do. Somewhere out there, someone is looking for exactly who you are. See you in the next one.